For years, these guys operated with almost military precision. They were like ghosts coming out of this one Boston neighborhood that kept all its secrets locked down tight. We're talking about a group of professional bank robbers who seemed absolutely untouchable, until one single violent mistake unraveled everything. That one mistake triggered one of the most intense manhunts in FBI history. So today we're going to break down exactly how the Charleston crew was finally taken down.
Okay, I want you to picture this. It's just total chaos, blinding speed. That was their signature move. You'd have one guy on the courier, another on the guard, a third on the driver. I mean, it was like a perfectly synchronized violent ballet. They were in and out before anyone could even process what was happening, before the panic could even set in. See, they weren't just armed. These guys were a full-on combat unit.
And then came Hudson, New Hampshire. It's a late August morning, 1994. The crew moves in on an armored car, just like they'd done countless times before. But this one wasn't going to follow the plan. This job would end in a way that shocked even the most hardened investigators out there.
You see, this was everything they trained to avoid. Their whole reputation, their entire MO, was built on being clean, efficient, no shots fired. But in Hudson, a guard reached for his weapon. And that's when it happened. A single shot, and the whole plan was shattered. In the chaos that followed, they made a truly fatal decision. They threw the wounded guard into their van and just hijacked the entire armored car.
And right here, this is where the robbery became something else entirely. Something much, much darker. They drove to this secluded path. Their perfect plan just in tatters. One of their masks had been ripped off. That meant a witness could potentially identify them. So they made a chilling decision. To make sure no one could ever testify against the others, every single member of the crew shot both guards. It was this brutal, shared act of self-preservation.
Okay, so to really get why these guys were so confident, why they thought they could get away with anything, you have to understand where they came from. We're talking about Charlestown, Boston. It's this tight, 1 square mile world of its own, a real blue-collar enclave where families had lived for generations, and, a place where outsiders were just not welcome.
This was the invisible wall that made any kind of police work basically impossible. It was this unwritten rule, born from a deep distrust of authority and just this fierce local loyalty. The rule was simple. You just didn't talk to cops. Ever. Snitching wasn't just frowned upon, it was literally unthinkable. If you tried to ask questions, you just get laughed out of the room. Code of silence, man. Get out of here.
All right, so let's meet the players, the crew at the center of it all. You had Anthony Shea. He was the ringleader, the meticulous planner who absolutely hated prison. But he needed an enforcer, and that's where Matty McDonald came in. Violent, totally unpredictable, and already a convicted murderer. The brains of the operation, that was Stephen Burke, the quiet guy who saw the huge potential in hitting armored cars. And then you had the guys around them, associates like Michael O'Halloran and Patrick McGonigal, the insiders who'd find the targets for a cut of the action.
And their process? For law enforcement, it was an absolute nightmare. Here's how it worked. It always started with meticulous surveillance. They'd use 2 stolen cars, one for the main assault and a second switch car for the real getaway. The robbery itself, over in less than a minute. Boom. Done. Then they'd torch the car, destroying every last bit of DNA and prints. They'd even get clever and plant false clues, like hair from a barbershop floor, just to send investigators on a total wild goose chase. I mean, this was a seriously professional operation.
Okay, so let's get back to Hudson. The pressure on law enforcement was just suffocating. I mean, this wasn't just another robbery anymore, it was a capital murder case. The FBI task force, they were pretty certain this had all the hallmarks of the Charleston crew. The big question was, how in the world were they going to prove it?
And that was the massive challenge, right? The only witnesses were dead. The crew were professionals who, by design, left nothing behind. So where do you even begin? Where do you start looking for that one loose thread that could unravel the whole thing?
Well, you start by looking for the cracks. And because they panicked, this crew finally made some mistakes. Just little things, but they add up. There was a single mask left behind in the armored car. A clear tire print on a dirt path. A waitress who remembered seeing the crew casing a diner. And then, the big one. A witness who described their rental truck. A very unique cab-over model. That truck, that was the key. Investigators moved fast. They found the only rental agency in the whole region that even carried that model. And get this, they learned it was due back the very next day. So they set a trap. A state trooper went undercover, posing as a rental agent, just waiting to see who would be dumb enough to actually return the vehicle used in a double murder. And who was the driver? Patrick McGonigal, a known associate. So boom, the FBI had their first real link. But here's the thing, catching one guy wasn't enough, not even close. To take down the entire network, they had to do what everyone thought was impossible. They had to find a way to break Charlestown's code of silence. So really, this is what the entire case boiled down to. On one side, you've got this cultural wall of silence that had protected criminals for generations. And on the other, the FBI's only real hope of getting justice. They knew they had to find someone, anyone, on the inside who was finally willing to talk.
So who did they target? A guy named Stephen Conley, a drug dealer with close ties to Shea and McDonald. Now, after Conley gets arrested, the lead investigator, a guy named Larry Trevolia, does something really smart. He focuses on Conley's pregnant girlfriend. But he doesn't pressure her, he doesn't threaten her. He builds trust. He actually helps her get an apartment, find a doctor. He shows her what a life free from all this violence could actually look like.
And you know what? It worked. She was the one who convinced Conley to flip, and man, was he a goldmine of information. He laid out 7 years of the crew's entire history. But the ultimate prize, the real jackpot, came when they put a wire on him inside prison. In the prison yard, he gets Matty McDonald, the enforcer, to start complaining. And in a moment of frustration, McDonald admits his role in the Hudson murders and how he botched the cover-up. The FBI had it all. Their smoking gun on tape.
Now, this mountain of evidence, especially that tape, it unlocked the federal government's most powerful weapon against organized crime, the RICO Act. And this was a total game changer. It meant prosecutors didn't have to prove each and every robbery one by one. They could go after the whole crew for running a criminal enterprise, linking years and years of crimes all together. See, the goal wasn't just to jail a few guys. It was to dismantle their entire operation for good.
But even as the feds were building this massive RICO case, Anthony Shea, the ringleader, was getting restless. The crew was supposed to be laying low, right? Staying quiet. But Shea's ego, his hubris, it just took over. He couldn't help himself. He had to plan one more job. Of course, the FBI was watching his every single move. So when Shea steals a Jeep and stashes it away for the job, agents get a court order and plant a listening device right inside. They're listening in as he and his new accomplices are casing banks, and they finally settle on a target in Wakefield. And as they approach that bank, an FBI SWAT team is already in position, totally ready to spring the trap.
And the audio they captured from that bug, it's just incredible. It captures the final, dramatic moments perfectly. As the SWAT vehicles move in to block their Jeep, you can hear one of the robbers ask, "What is the problem?" And all Shea can get out is, "Feds, feds, 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 feds." Just like that. It was over.
So, with Shea in custody, the rest of the dominoes just fell, one by one. A plan was executed to round up the entire crew in a single, coordinated sweep. For the task force that had been hunting these guys for so long, it was finally the end of an era. And using the full power of that RICO statute, the courts came down hard. I mean, really hard. Shea, McDonald, Burke, and O'Halloran were all convicted on every single count, including the Hudson murders. They all got life sentences. McGonigal, he got 30 years. The reign of the Charleston robbers was officially over.
But, in the end, you have to ask, what was it all for? As one of them actually told the informant, it was never just about the money. He said that was only part of it. It was really about the rush, that unbelievable feeling of power, which is a pretty chilling final thought, isn't it? It kind of makes you wonder, how many other crews out there operated under the protection of that kind of silence, fueled by that exact same intoxicating power?